Hey folks, I often hear testers ask, how do I know which test cases I need to automate? So you might be just starting with test automation, or sometimes the manual testing is really slowing down your project, so you know you need to automate, but you don't know where to begin. And sometimes I hear people say, well, our goal is to automate 100% of the test cases. We need to automate all the things. And so when that happens, what I do is I ask a question. I ask, well, 100%, where does that number come from? And they tell me, well, you see, it's all about test coverage. We need lots of test coverage. I go, sure. But you see, my problem with 100% test automation is 100% of what? So you might say, well, 100% of the test cases. But my next question is, how do you know these are the right test cases? How do you know the test cases test everything? How do you know they aren't wasting time testing trivial stuff and missing out on the really important things? How many test cases are testing things that could really easily be done through unit testing, but wasting time with long-running tests? You see, here's the thing, 100% test coverage from a QA perspective, 100% of code coverage is an illusion. You can't do it. You can never get that level of meaningful test coverage from the sort of test cases you write as a QA. It's mathematically impossible. And even if you were to get 100% code coverage as a metric, if Sonar was telling you you've got 100%, it's all green, you've got no way of knowing that the code was executed correctly. You're not actually verifying the outcomes. You're just exercising the code. So code coverage as a metric is not that useful. The only way to get real high, significant code coverage is through unit tests. And the only way to know that it's meaningful is through test-driven development, but that's another story that we'll talk about another time. What I want to talk about here is this concept of coverage, what I call feature coverage, which is what's more meaningful from a QA perspective, and feature coverage is what people really mean when they say 100% coverage. And the only way you can have meaningful coverage from a QA perspective is to test all of the features and all the features well. And what this means is not writing test cases for the requirements and then automating these test cases. What this means is turning your requirements themselves into automated tests. Acceptance tests where you agree with your customer or with the user on what's really important. And you give a few key examples of how that should work and some counterexamples of how it shouldn't work in different scenarios. And if all of these examples work, then you'll have a happy customer. Of course, you can automate more than this if you like. But beyond these core requirements, these key examples, then you can get into discussions with your team about what the best way to automate is. Should it be unit tests? Should it be an integration test? Should it be a contract-driven test? Should it be a UI end-to-end test? Whatever, you can have that conversation and decide what is the most effective way of testing these more detailed scenarios, these detailed cases. But in all cases, what you have when you use this approach is if you automate the specifications that you agree upon with the users, then you know that you've covered what matters to them. So my take is, forget about 100% of your test cases. Automate your specifications instead. If you like this sort of topic, there's a link below on the video where you can download our Agile Test Automation Playbook, where we talk about stuff like this in a lot more detail. And we also have a Facebook group and a YouTube channel, if you're into that sort of thing, where we have a lot more material. So be sure to check that out as well.